Chaos erupted at Sydney's Westfield Bondi Junction after reports of a suspected stabbing sent shockwaves through the bustling shopping centre. A suspect has been shot and 5 people, including a 9-month-old baby, are reported dead in an incident at a mall. New South Wales Police Assistant Commissioner Anthony Cook held a press conference and said that the injured were admitted to hospital.
Said 111, someone's being stabbed. And so we were inside Dior, they closed the doors, and we saw the guy come up the escalators, green shirt, I think shorts, with a big black knife in his hand. And just really calmly, he was just walking like he was having an ice cream in the park, you know. And then he went up the escalators at Zara, and then probably within about a minute we heard 3 gunshots, and that was it.
So there you heard a witness say that he heard 3 gunshots within about a minute. Let's get you the police commissioner's soundbite now.
3:10 this afternoon, a male walked into Westfield at Bondi Junction. He left the centre very shortly after and returned about 3:20. As he moved through the centre, he engaged with about 9 people. There are 5 victims who are now deceased as a result of the actions of this offender. There are more than several other people who have been conveyed to hospital. A number of those are in serious and or critical conditions at this stage.
Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has expressed shock at the killings.
For all of us tonight, the devastating scenes at Bondi Junction are beyond words or understanding. It would appear that this person has acted alone. The motives are not known yet, and speculation on that would not be helpful at this time.
Right, moving on. US President Joe Biden issued a stern warning to Iran, which has threatened to take military action against Israel after its consulate in Syria was destroyed, allegedly in an Israeli airstrike. He told journalists at the White House that an Iranian attack could take place sooner than later. Biden also said that his grim outlook was based on intelligence reports that he was not at liberty to describe further.
I don't want to get into secure information, but my expectation sooner than later.
Mr. President, to Iran in this moment?
Don't. We are devoted to the defense of Israel. We will support Israel. We will help defend Israel, and Iran will not succeed.
Now, India and several other countries, including France, Poland and Russia, have warned their citizens against traveling to West Asia and the Gulf. Germany warned its citizens to leave Iran, saying that there was a risk of a sudden escalation in Iran's tensions with Israel and that Germans might be at risk of arbitrary arrest in the country. Austria's foreign ministry followed Germany in urging its citizens to leave Iran. Austrian Airlines was suspending all flights from Vienna to Tehran until 18th April. France's Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs has advised its citizens against traveling to Iran, Lebanon, Israel and the Palestinian territories. The UK has told its citizens to avoid all but essential travel to Israel and the Palestinian territories over the possibility of an attack on Israeli territory from Iran. India on Friday issued an advisory urging its citizens not to travel to Iran or Israel after a sharp rise in tensions between the two countries. The Ministry of External Affairs said in a statement that in view of the prevailing situation in the region, all Indians are advised not to travel to Iran or Israel till further notice. The Indian Embassy in Israel asked Indian nationals in the country to avoid unnecessary travel, to remain calm and follow safety guidelines issued by the local authorities. And joining me from Tel Aviv is my colleague Alex Carrier. Alex, how is Israel bracing itself for a possible Iranian counterstrike? Also, is the US moving assets to the region to deter Iran?
Yeah, the US is definitely moving assets just in a preventive move. We understand that from John Kirby, the national security spokesperson at the White House. The Israeli Air Force, the US Air Force, and the Air Force from Cyprus running drills in the last 24 hours, simulating an Iranian attack, therefore very much preparing for that Iranian attack. But what we've seen, news breaking just in the last few minutes, Iranian commandos have seized a ship in the Strait of Hormuz just off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. It is a Portuguese flagged vessel, but it is owned by a group which is in turn owned by an Israeli billionaire. And we see that what could be Iran's response may, rather than being one major strike, it could also be lots of smaller actions by the Iranians, including seizing ships in the Strait of Hormuz, or actions in the north, because we've seen Hezbollah firing explosive drones into the north of Israel, all being shot down. No injuries or deaths reported there, but certainly that pressure from Iran building up. And anywhere you go in Israel, including here in Tel Aviv, everybody is very aware of where their closest bomb shelter is. But broadly speaking, it's business as usual, particularly in the big cities, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Beersheba, because Israelis are used to living under the threat of retaliation, under the threat of strikes, and are used to living under the threat of Iran.
Also, Alex, what can you tell us about aid flowing into Gaza, including through a new land crossing in the north?
Yeah, well, not nearly enough aid going through Gaza. That's what we hear from aid agencies. They say they have seen an improvement. They have seen an uptick. And yes, a few trucks. I think it was a couple of trucks going through that new crossing in the north. That does beg the question of why they didn't use the existing crossing, the Erez checkpoint, like they said they would. And again, aid agencies saying there has been an improvement, but Israeli security checks remain far too cumbersome to allow aid into the Gaza Strip. Now, the Israeli government says repeatedly that they are placing no limitations on aid going into Gaza, but the reality on the ground, at least from those aid agencies working in Gaza, say it is very different. There is a bit of an exchange of blame between the Israeli government and those aid agencies. What is clear, we heard Samantha Power, the chairwoman of USAID, the aid agency for the United States government, saying that that famine is taking root in northern Gaza, so that humanitarian situation still remaining desperate.
And just to recap what Alex was breaking there just moments ago, the ship has been seized near the Strait of Hormuz by Iran. This is news just coming. We'll get you more as we go along. But Alex, for now, thank you. Appreciate it. Now, France's President Emmanuel Macron held a video call with Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Friday. They discussed the situation in Ukraine following a participation by their countries at 8 conferences held in Paris and Berlin earlier this year. The call came as Macron and Scholz are set to participate in a European Union summit on the 17th and 18th of April. In Chile, a prosecutor's office said that the February kidnap and murder of a Venezuelan opposition figure in Chile was ordered from Venezuela. It said that the government of Chile will seek to extradite 2 suspects who fled to Venezuela. Hector Barros, the lead prosecutor of Santiago's organized crime and homicide team, said a Venezuelan prison gang that has spread throughout Latin America was responsible for the murder. Chilean police detained a 17-year-old Venezuelan for the crime. Chile's Interior Minister Carolina Toja said that the suspects received the order to carry out this kidnapping. The most plausible hypothesis is that there was some political motive.
Organized crime is involved. They were the executors. The question is what their motive was. According to the investigation, the victim has no connection with the organized crime. There are no elements to consider, for example, a self-kidnapping or any hypothesis. This has led the prosecutor's office to think that the most plausible hypothesis is that it was a potential motive.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has flat out blamed Donald Trump for the unraveling of abortion rights in the U.S. She called the former U.S. president the architect of a healthcare crisis. Harris made the remarks during a fiery speech in the state of Arizona on Friday, just days after the state's top court upheld a law from 1864 criminalizing and banning nearly all abortions. As DD India's Tony Waterman reports, the issue is now front and center in a U.S. state that could decide who wins the White House in November.
Kamala Harris called Donald Trump out dozens of times during her 15-minute speech, saying the former president wants to take women back to the 1800s, and she called him the architect of this healthcare crisis. More than 20 states have now implemented abortion bans since Trump's conservative Supreme Court nominees overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago, eliminating the constitutional right to an abortion in the United States.
We all must understand who is to blame. Former President Donald Trump did this. During his campaign in 2016, Donald Trump said women should be punished for seeking an abortion. Don't forget that. He said women should be punished.
Polls show that abortion is a top issue for voters this coming fall, and Democrats are hoping that bans like this one in Arizona will motivate voters to the ballot box come November. Arizona is a key battleground state, one that Biden won by just 10,500 votes in 2020. And what happens there could really decide the outcome of this year's election. And Donald Trump seems to realize that abortion could be a losing issue for him. On his social media platform, Truth Social, on Friday, he said the Arizona ruling went too far, that the law is inappropriate, and he told Republican lawmakers to act as fast as possible to remedy the situation. But ultimately, it could be voters who decide. Abortion rights groups in Arizona say they have collected enough signatures to get a measure on the ballot to amend the state's constitution, enshrining the right to an abortion and bypassing lawmakers altogether. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
The New York judge overseeing Donald Trump's hush money criminal case rejected the former U.S. president's bid to delay his trial scheduled for 15th April on the ground that substantial pre-trial publicity would make the proceedings unfair. Trump had sought an indefinite delay, saying that media coverage was prejudiced against him, and finding an acceptable jury in Manhattan would be tough because the borough was overwhelmingly biased against him. But in a decision on Friday, the judge said that an indefinite adjournment was not tenable. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Haiti decrees long-awaited transition council, but questions remain. And China's top legislator visits North Korea, seeks to further strengthen the relations.
We are joined by India's ace shooter Rudraksh Patil, who in a short span of time has won multiple medals at the international level.
Back to all of these matches have been very memorable to me. I cherish those matches a lot because all of these matches, not only I played them for the first time, but I was able to win over there also.
You earned the quota for the country in 10-meter air rifle. What a great achievement at such a young age.
It was quite a very unique experience for me, which was coming this World Championship. I think so. The first thing which I was very proud was that I made India great over there and I could bring the quota.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Haiti formalized the creation of a 9-member transitional presidential council, a long-delayed move intended as the first step in restoring security to the gang-ravaged Caribbean country. But the decree does not name the new council members or establish a time frame for installing the council and replacing Prime Minister Ariel Henry. It calls on the council to help speed up the deployment of international troops the Prime Minister had requested in 2022 to aid the police in its battle against armed and increasingly powerful gangs. Nearly 95,000 people have fled the metropolitan area of the capital Port-au-Prince in the last month as armed gangs cemented their control. People are lacking basic goods as key ports remain closed while the outgoing government remains absent. China's top legislator Zhao Leji visited the Friendship Tower in Pyongyang on Friday. Zhao is on a goodwill visit to North Korea. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the China DPRK Friendship Year, Zhao said that China's leadership is willing to work with its North Korean counterparts to deepen the trust and boost cooperation. The visit aims at Beijing's consistent strategic policy to defend and develop friendly ties between China and North Korea. Ukrainian power plant is left with no power units intact after a massive missile and drone attack destroyed one of Ukraine's largest power plants and damaged others on Thursday. The Tripilska plant was struck numerous times, destroying the transformer, turbines and generators and leaving the plant ablaze. Since last month, Russia has launched multiple major attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure, dealing significant damage to the Ukrainian power system and causing emergency power outages in some regions. Russia and Kazakhstan battled rising water levels after major rivers across their countries burst their banks in the worst flooding seen in an area since nearly a century. Authorities in the Russian city of Orenburg called on locals to evacuate immediately because of the rapidly rising floodwaters caused by melting of snow. Water was rising sharply in another Russian region of Kurgan and in neighboring Kazakhstan. Officials said that 100,000 people had so far been evacuated. The deluge of melting snow has forced more than 120,000 people from their homes in Russia's Ural Mountains, Siberia and Kazakhstan as major rivers, including the Ural, which flows through Kazakhstan into the Caspian Sea, overwhelmed embankments. Russia's Orenburg is battling rising water as the level of the Ural River tops 11 meters. Meanwhile, a local animal shelter in the flood-hit area is now hosting more than 350 animals. Volunteers from other regions have organized van loads of aid for the animals, but the director of the shelter says she has received scant assistance from officials. Earlier, regional authorities called for the mass evacuation of parts of Orenburg, which is home to 500,000 people. Although there is still a lot of ice on Yakutia's Lena River, locals are working hard to stop potential ice jams and spring floods in the coming weeks. The goal is to force certain sections of ice melt faster than others, thus breaking the solidity of the ice cover. An official of the local river agency says that with the help of blackening process, some parts of the ice cover are sprayed with coal dust. Another widely used technique is cutting deep grooves on ice with chainsaws in the shape of a diamond. The officials said that the works that cost about $500,000 would be on till the 20th of April. Meanwhile, in the U.S. state of Florida, rescuers have been drafted to get people out of deep floodwaters. Flooding was reported in several areas in and around the city in northern Florida, with a wind speed of more than 80 kilometers per hour, downing trees and power lines. Turkish rescue teams have worked through the night to save 166 people who was stuck on a cable car after an accident occurred on Friday in Turkey's southern province of Antalya. The Interior Ministry said that one person was killed and 10 injured after the cable car cabin collided with a broken pole. 24 cabins were stranded in the air at 5:23 p.m. local time on Friday. 16 hours later, more than 60 people were still stranded in the remaining 9 cabins in the air. The cable car has 36 cabins with a capacity of 6 people each, and it takes an average of 9 minutes to go uphill to the Tunekep facility with panoramic views of the city of Antalya. Right now, take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Indonesia's military denies using airstrikes in the remote area where a New Zealand pilot, Philip Mertens, was kidnapped by Papuan rebels. The rebels claim that military actions endanger the pilot, but Indonesia dismisses it as hoax news. Efforts are underway for Mertens' rescue amidst calls for negotiation and international involvement. An 18-wheel truck with a loaded flatbed slammed in the U.S. state of Texas, killing one person and injuring more than a dozen. The driver was taken into custody and described as a suspect. Right, moving on, a group of Myanmar junta troops that retreated from their base in Myawaddy to a bridge along the Thailand border were attacked by resistance groups using drones. Thailand armed forces conducted severe patrolling near the border with Myanmar after the incident. Thailand's Foreign Minister Pahitha Nukara had said on Friday that no request had been received from the group of junta which had retreated to the border to cross into Thailand. India's Minister of External Affairs, Subramaniam Jaishankar, reiterated the country's firm stance on cross-border terrorism. He made the remarks at Pune on Friday.
So, point is, something like Mumbai happens, and if you do not react to it, how can you prevent the next one from happening? And उनको ये नहीं लगना चाहिए कि भाई हम इस लाइन के उस पार हैं तो कोई हमें छुएगा नहीं. See, terrorists do not play by any rules. The answer to terrorists cannot have any rules.
The Indian Army on Saturday released a video saluting the valor of Army personnel on the occasion of 40 years of Operation Meghdoot in the world's highest battlefield, Siachen Glacier in Ladakh. A large cache of arms and ammunition was recovered by India's security forces in Jammu and Kashmir's Kupwara. The Border Security Force, the Indian Army and the Jammu and Kashmir Police had launched a joint operation after receiving a specific information on the presence of terrorists in the Gangbuk forest. 13th April marks one of the darkest chapters in India's struggle for independence. Saturday is the 105th anniversary of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. DD India's Kriti Vadhera reports.
Baisakhi is the agricultural festival of happiness and prosperity which is celebrated in Punjab every year on 13th of April. A cold-blooded genocide that led to the bloodiest Baisakhi ever took place on April 13, 1919. The tranquil city of Amritsar in Punjab witnessed a horrific event that shook the nation to its core. British colonial forces under the command of Brigadier General Dyer opened fire on thousands of unarmed Indian civilians gathered at the Jallianwala Bagh public garden. The crowd had gathered peacefully to protest against the arrest and deportation of two nationalist leaders and to demand freedom from British rule. What followed was a brutal onslaught that lasted for around 10 to 15 minutes. The firing was indiscriminate, leaving hundreds dead and thousands injured. Among the victims were women and children, their lives cut short in a tragic act of colonial oppression. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre was a turning point in India's struggle for independence. It ignited a firestorm of anger and resentment against British rule, uniting people from all walks of life in their quest for freedom. However, in April 2019, the then British Prime Minister Theresa May described the massacre as a shameful scar on British Indian history.
The tragedy of Jallianwala Bagh in 1919 is a shameful scar on British Indian history. As Her Majesty the Queen said before visiting Jallianwala Bagh in 1997, it is a distressing example of our past history with India. We deeply regret what happened and the suffering caused. I'm pleased that today the UK-India relationship is one of collaboration, partnership, prosperity and security. Indian diaspora make an enormous contribution to British society.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Jallianwala Bagh National Memorial at Amritsar in August 2021 and paid homage to the martyrs and survivors of the massacre, emphasizing the importance of preserving the memory of the tragedy for future generations.
जलियांवाला बाग का ये नया स्वरूप देशवासियों को इस पवित्र स्थान के इतिहास के बारे में, इसके अतीत के बारे में बहुत कुछ जानने के लिए प्रेरित करेगा.
The memorial serves as a place of reflection and remembrance, ensuring that the memory to the Jallianwala Bagh massacre lives on as a symbol of India's struggle for freedom and justice. Kriti Vadhera for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. The Rashtriya Janata Dal releases its manifesto and Home Minister Amit Shah holds a rally in Kanyakumari. A special report from the border village of Cheet Sakati near the border between India and Bangladesh, which goes to the polls on 19th April. And devotees take a holy dip and pray at the Golden Temple in India's Amritsar on the occasion of the festival of Vaisakhi.
We are looking at a seminal contest that's happening in the South China Sea between China and the Philippines. Why is this conflict intensifying in the maritime domain?
We see Xi Jinping in his third term. His entire legacy in third term was bringing his old glory of China back.
With Philippines, it has worked out. If we can strike similar deals with other countries, then I think the fact that India is trying to emerge as a security and defense partner, it has to sustain that by entering into similar deals with other countries.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. Man kills 5 in stabbing attack at a shopping centre in the Australian city of Sydney. Police shoot the attacker dead. 8, including a child, taken to hospital.
There are 5 victims who are now deceased as a result of the actions of this offender. There are more than several other people who have been conveyed to hospital.
US President Joe Biden expects Iran to attack Israel sooner than later, issues a one-word warning to Tehran: don't. An exodus to Thailand continues after fall of key Myanmar border town. Thailand's foreign minister visits the area, urges Myanmar junta to scale back the violence. Ecuador is grappling with the repercussions of an armed conflict that has severely impacted its tourism sector, which was once a major economic pillar. This year in January, organized crime groups in the country issued threats of war. It prompted the country's president to declare a 60-day emergency. The worsening security situation has dealt a blow to tourism, which welcomed more than 1.5 million international tourists in 2022. Right, let's now get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Bihar's former Deputy Chief Minister Tejashwi Yadav released the Rashtriya Janata Dal's manifesto on Saturday. Yadav promised 5 new airports in the state and 100,000 rupees per year to women from economically weaker sections of the society on the festival of Raksha Bandhan. The manifesto also promises 10 million jobs, a special status to Bihar, recruitment in railways to end unemployment, an end to privatization in the railways, free electricity up to 200 units, and improvements in health, education and tourism. Bihar will go to the polls in all 7 phases starting 19th of April. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi held a rally in Uttarakhand's Roorkee and Ramnagar on Saturday. With the elections inching closer, she addressed public meetings in the region. In her address, she stressed that youth are the nation's builders and that the upcoming election is going to decide their future. Senior BJP leader and India's Home Minister Amit Shah held a roadshow in support of the party candidate in the southern state of Tamil Nadu. During this meeting, he also addressed the workers in Kanyakumari city of the state. He said Prime Minister Modi has worked to increase the pride of Tamil language and culture in the country and around the world. Right, joining me are my colleagues who are covering the elections from the ground in some of these states that go to the polls on the 19th of April. Joining me are Gautam Roy, joining us from West Bengal, and Dibyundu Mondal, also covering the northeastern state of the country. First to you, Gautam, how's the campaigning coming along in the 3 seats of Jalpaiguri, Alipurduar and Cooch Behar in West Bengal?
Well, it's a very it's a fairly well fought sort of a contest over here, because what we've seen, Ramesh, is that through the course of different elections, the nature of the mandate has been changing here. We saw last time in the elections that took place for the parliament in 2019, the BJP dominated the area in Jalpaiguri itself. Jayantu Roy, the candidate who won at that time, who's again the BJP's candidate this time around, got 51% of the votes, where the TMC got 38%. The left was much more lesser than that. This time around, again, primarily these three are in the contest. And if you look at the assembly elections that took place in 2021, the verdict was quite different. At that time, the voters here gave 5 of the assembly seats in the region to the TMC and 2 to the BJP. The left didn't get anything. This time around, the left is being backed by the Congress. They have an alliance, and the TMC and the BJP are fighting on their own. And the contest has been very keen. Prime Minister Modi's been here 6 days ago. Mamata Banerjee has been literally camping here. She's been here for another 3 days as well in this region itself. What has sort of queered the pitch a bit for each political party is the fact that there was a storm here in this region on the 31st of last month, which has led to a lot of distress. 5 people lost their lives as well. There are people who've been rendered homeless, and there's been a lot of politicking over who's going to take care of them and how, because there's a model code of conduct on, and directly the political parties, both at the centre, who are ruling in the centre, and in the state, can't really help. So there's been some politicking going on about that as well, and that is something that is being made an issue here by the leaders as well, although there is no dearth of issues in this region, primarily tea, timber and tourism region, so to speak, because Alipurdwar, Jalpaiguri, where I am, and even in Cooch Behar, although not so much, there are a lot of tea gardens, over 300 tea gardens in this area, and the tea workers have their own issues, about 16 lakh of them here in West Bengal. They want better wages, they want land rights, and the tea industry itself needs some sort of a revival too. So all these issues are at play here in this region.
Right, Debyendu, coming to you now for the benefit of viewers joining us from around the world. Talk to us a bit, if you will, about the state of Arunachal Pradesh and why this northeasternmost state of India matters.
Well, that's absolutely right, Ramesh. I'm at Itanagar currently, which is the capital of Arunachal Pradesh. And there are just 2 seats here in Arunachal Pradesh that is represented by 2 members of parliaments in the Indian Parliament, lower house, which is the Lok Sabha. So, of course, there are 2 contesting candidates, both from the BJP as well as the Congress from here in Arunachal Pradesh. But of course, why this state is important is, of course, because the fact that it shares a large border with the neighboring China. So of course, this in fact makes Arunachal Pradesh a very important state for India. The government's focus over the last couple of years in development in Arunachal Pradesh along the bordering districts of Arunachal Pradesh have been a key focus. And when we talk to the locals here, we do understand the fact that the government's focus for development in the border region has been successful, and people are happy about that fact. But also, the government's development, not just in terms of infrastructure, but also through the Vibrant Village program, the government has been able to develop and provide facilities, in fact, better facilities to the people living in the upper northern region and along the border region in Arunachal Pradesh, which borders with China under the Vibrant Villages project. So, of course, Arunachal Pradesh is a very strategically important part of India and has been an important sector for India because the fact that, as I said, it has one of the largest borders with China, and we have seen several of time that India, in fact, China had got into conflict with India, especially in the upper regions of the bordering villages in Arunachal Pradesh. So of course, these are some of the issues that will also, are also being heatedly debated during the election campaigns here in Arunachal Pradesh. Back to you.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for. I'll have to leave it at that. Gautam and Debyendu, thank you for your update. That was Gautam Roy in Jalpaiguri and Debyendu Mondal reporting there from Itanagar in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, the 3 parliamentary seats of Jalpaiguri, Alipurdwar and Cooch Behar in the state of West Bengal will go to the polls, as Gautam reported there, on the 19th of April. A large part of this area falls on the international border between India and Bangladesh, which is guarded by one of the world's largest paramilitaries, India's Border Security Force. On polling day, the BSF has the added responsibility for ensuring a free and fair voting in the villages that fall in the no man's land. Now, no man's land is area of land between the borders of 2 countries that is not controlled by either. My colleague Gautam Roy reports from one such border village of Chit Sakati.
One of the world's largest paramilitary organizations, India's Border Security Force, or BSF, has the task of guarding the nation's international borders. Come polling day on the 19th of April, in the first of the 7-phase general elections, it has to play a dual role in Jalpaiguri parliamentary seat's Chitsakati village. Chitsakati and dozens of other villages in North West Bengal's 3 Lok Sabha seats, which poll on the 19th of April, are on no man's land between the zero line which separates India from Bangladesh and the border fence which has been erected at a distance of 150 yards on the international boundary on the Indian side. The BSF has to ensure that while villagers have no trouble reaching the polling station which is across the border fence, no imposters or undesirable elements make it across. What helps the guards is India's digitized biometric identification system, Aadhaar.
We have installed a biometric system here and their data is already fed into the system. They are free to cast their vote, even if for some reason they can't go themselves because of age or some other reason. We can give them a vehicle.
Chitsakati's villagers say they're satisfied with the arrangements and are looking forward to polling day.
नहीं सर, हम लोग का कोई दिक्कत नहीं है.
We have no problem moving around. We also have motorcycles and we can move around freely. We have no issues with the BSF even at night. If there is an emergency, they open the gate and let us in.
तो गेट रात 12 बजे चाहे 1 बजे तुरंत गेट खुल देता है.
आना जाना ठीक है वोट. We have vote here. There is no problem. We can come and go with ease. There is no problem in voting.
The villagers also say what they would like their elected representative to do is to get a bridge across a nearby river, connecting their village to the border fence, fixed so that they don't have to tread a track which gets submerged during the rains. Construction of structures in no man's land can only take place after agreement between both the Indian and Bangladeshi administrations across the border, and they hope the work can be taken forward soon.
अच्छी तैयारी है, हम लोग तो वोट देने आते हैं.
We vote in every election. The only problem is that the bridge to our village across the river is broken. We use a dry path these days, which gets submerged during the rains. We would appreciate if the bridge could be reconstructed.
Even with some inconveniences, the enthusiasm of these borderland villagers has not dimmed when it comes to taking part in the world's biggest democratic election.
Call it fate or the way boundaries are drawn between nations, that voters of villages such as Chitsakali, and there are dozens of them here in Jalpaiguri and adjoining Alipurdwar, they're caught between the zero line of the border between India and Bangladesh and the fence that's been put up 150 yards away on the Indian side. But does that mean that their democratic rights will be taken away on the 19th when this region votes in the national parliamentary elections? Well, that will not happen. This much has been ensured. With camera person Sumit Dhaman, Gautam Roy, Jalpaiguri, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Hungary emerges as a favorite location in Europe for makers of Indian films, TV series and music videos. And top seed Novak Djokovic to take on 8th-seeded Casper Ruud in the semi-finals of the Monte Carlo Masters.
Tracking the first phase of general elections, Team Poll Pulse has reached India's northeast in Assam. This is the tea city of India, Dibrugarh.
They are not getting jobs in the local area like in Dibrugarh or nearby districts and all.
Home to the finest tea, the state is set for a cracker of a contest. This is 2024. Can the Congress and allies offer a fight back, or will the Modi juggernaut be unstoppable? Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
We are joined by India's ace shooter Rudransh Patil, who in a short span of time has won multiple medals at the international level.
Back to all of these matches have been very memorable to me. I cherish those matches a lot because all of these matches, not only I played them for the first time, but I was able to win over there also.
You earned the quota for the country
in 10-meter air rifle. What a great achievement at such a young age.
It was quite a very unique experience for me, which was coming the 12th championship. I think so. The first thing which I was very proud was that I made India great over there, and I could bring the quota.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Hungary's allure as a filming destination is soaring among Indian filmmakers attracted by the country's iconic landmarks, low production costs and versatile settings. From Bollywood blockbusters and TV series to music videos, Hungary's capital Budapest has been a backdrop for Indian productions looking for a European setting that will not break the bank. DD India's Pablo Gutierrez reports.
Lights, camera, action. This is the latest Indian production shot in Budapest, Hungary. Some of India's most talented musicians are on the stage, ready for their close-up.
Everybody here, sound engineer, is very professional, very committed for the work, for the music. So we really like that attitude.
Playing the bansuri is in Padasnath's DNA. He is the third generation of Indian flute players in his family. Filming music videos in Hungary, he says, has given his productions a unique look that sets them apart from what's being shot in India.
Such a beautiful venue we are in, and it's pleasure for any artist. It's pleasure to be such a beautiful theater. It's sounding so amazing, and we are getting great shots for our video.
The man responsible for this 12-camera music video shoot has worked with some of Bollywood's biggest stars.
Our first biggest project was the name of the movie was Sultan, but one of the biggest actor, Salman Khan, was coming, and we will shoot with them.
And some of Hollywood's A-listers.
Yeah, with Steven Spielberg, the biggest one, Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Donald Sutherland.
Chutor says there has been an increased demand over the last couple of years from Indian filmmakers to shoot in Hungary. His company, Official Films, provides them with a film crew, equipment, location, and film permits, and manages the local budget of the shoot to ensure it gets done on time. From action-packed thrillers to traditional Indian music videos, Chutor's company has filmed 15 productions for Bollywood's market. He expects his business to keep growing thanks to the 30% tax rebate the Hungarian government gives to foreign productions to entice them to shoot in this country.
It's not just the economic incentives that are drawing more Indian productions to shoot in Hungary. It's also the variety of magnificent locations like this one that can be seamlessly transformed into any international backdrop.
And it's not just Chutor and his crew who have Hollywood experience. The orchestra playing along with the Indian musician has scored many Hollywood blockbusters at a fraction of what it would cost in London, Europe's main film hub.
And I think they realize it's maybe better to come here like to UK or to any other European country.
Last year, the Hungarian film industry set record earnings, reaching $700 million in profit. Currently, only the UK tops them in Europe. Production houses in Hollywood East, as film insiders now call Budapest, say great film locations are key for top-notch Bollywood flicks, and Hungary has plenty of them to offer. For DD India, Pablo Gutierrez, Budapest.
All right, now take a look at some other stories making news in India. India's top court will hear Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's plea against arrest by the Enforcement Directorate on 15th April. Earlier this month, the Delhi High Court upheld his arrest by the agency. A bench of Justices Sanjeev Khanna and Dipankar Datta will hear his plea. Reflecting India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's tech-savvy approach, the Namo app has introduced a unique feature based on AI for dissemination of information on the government's flagship programs. Namo AI, a one-of-its-kind feature, will share information on PM Modi and the government's achievements via AI-powered chatbot tools. Devotees took a holy dip and offered prayers at the Golden Temple in India's Amritsar on the occasion of Vaisakhi. It's a harvest festival. Vaisakhi marks the beginning of the Sikh New Year. And preparations are on for Rukuna Rath Yatra of Lord Lingaraj in India's Bhubaneswar. Artisans are busy giving the final touches to the chariot of Lord Lingaraj. Rukuna Rath Yatra is the largest chariot-pulled festival in Bhubaneswar and draws thousands of devotees every year. And now to all the news from the world of sport. Top seed Novak Djokovic will take on 8th-seeded Casper Ruud in the semi-finals of the Monte Carlo Masters on Saturday. Djokovic reached a record 77th Masters semi-final on Friday when he beat Australia's Alex de Minaur in straight sets. The 36-year-old faced a hard-fought battle against the Australian 11th seed before finally securing a 7-5, 6-4 win. Meanwhile, Casper Ruud beat Frenchman Hugo Humbert 6-3, 4-6, 6-1 to reach the semis. The Indian women's tennis team beat South Korea 2-1 in its Billie Jean King Cup 2024 Asia-Oceania Group 1 in China on Friday. Rutuja Bhosle registered a comfortable 6-2, 6-2 win over world number 301 Soyun Park. Bhosle won 5 games in a row in the first set to assert her dominance early on. Meanwhile, Ankita Raina along with Prarthana Thombare won the doubles fixture 6-4, 6-4 against Devin Kim and Soyun Park. The 2-1 win over South Korea was India's third win in the Asia-Oceania Group 1. India is currently second in Pool A with 3 wins and 1 loss. The Indian tennis team will take on New Zealand in its final group match on Saturday. To cricket now, Punjab Kings will lock horns with Rajasthan Royals on Saturday in match 27 of the Indian Premier League at Mohali. Kings has so far had a decent campaign, winning 2 out of its 5 games played. With a narrow defeat in its last game against Sunrisers Hyderabad, the hosts will be looking to come back stronger and climb up in the points table. Meanwhile, Delhi Capitals picked up a 6-wicket win over Lucknow Super Giants on Friday to pick up its second win of this year's IPL season. An incredible 50 from debutant Jake Fraser McGurk with his 55 of 35 deliveries and skipper Rishabh Pant's 41 of just 24 deliveries coasted Royals with 11 deliveries to spare. Kuldeep Yadav turned up to dismiss Marcus Stoinis and Nicholas Puran in back-to-back deliveries and then came an over later to send back skipper KL Rahul. Capitals moved up to 9th after the win. Lucknow, meanwhile, slipped to the 4th position after the defeat. In table tennis, the Indian pair of Manika Batra and Sathyan Gyanasekaran failed to secure a Paris Olympics quota from the World Mixed Doubles Table Tennis Olympic Qualification Tournament on Friday. The duo was stunned in the quarterfinals by the Malaysian pair of Javan Chung and Karen Line, ranked 153rd in the world. It was the Indian duo's second and last chance for securing a Paris Olympics quota after suffering a quarterfinal loss in the first knockout round on Thursday. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.